suffered a lot of early season injuries, and it had a ripple effect. We had people playing at all different spots. We, of course, had some players that were lower down on the depth chart that actually were starting for us, even in some cases early in the season unexpectedly. So, some of that can be attributed to the lack of experience, but later in the season, as we got that game experience, we did lose some close games. That's a reflection of me as a coach. It's a reflection of our players gutting it out at the end. So there's a lot of variables there, but it wasn't just one thing. And, without a doubt, we got to go in with the mentality we're going to finish things off. We lost 4 games last year in the last 20 seconds and 2 more in the last 2 minutes of the game. So, obviously, if you're that close, you're capable of winning, and we just need to do a great job across the board, getting things done at the end.
Well, obviously, every team expects to go in and win a Patriot League title, but I think for us, we do have that high expectation, setting our goals high, but for us, it's definitely about finishing this year. It's something that myself, Mike Fest, and all our whole coaching staff is going to make a point to finish, because there were times last year where there were heartbreaking losses, and it all came down to the fourth quarter. So just making an emphasis on being able to finish this year is something that we're going to have to really take serious. And it starts with practice, getting on the practice field. Last couple periods of practice is where the real focus needs to kick in, so that on game day, things like losing a game in the fourth quarter doesn't happen to us this year.
It hurt us in a lot of ways early in the season last year because we didn't have the experience, but obviously they played a lot last year, and that's going to help us this year. It not only helps us with the game experience part of it, but the level of confidence coming in. Those guys, aren't going to be quite so wide-eyed getting on the field and things like that. And also, I think, really helped serve as a lot of motivation in the off-season, and it also created some competition moving forward. We have several spots where we have multiple players that are not only capable of being great players, but they have to beat someone else out on the team to get on the field, and those things that competition is going to make us better as well. I don't think there's any more visible spot than our quarterback position. Early last year, when I spoke to people saying that you have to be patient with these guys, they're going to be very good football players. They just don't have that much experience. At least at that point, they didn't. But what people didn't realize, they didn't have a lot of practice under their belts. Steve Elder was hurt, and both of them were both hurt most of their freshman year. So they didn't get even a lot of practice time, and they were further down in the depth chart. Ryan was further down the depth chart at the beginning of the season, wasn't getting a lot of practice reps, and then Elder got hurt halfway through the preseason, so he wasn't practicing at all. So literally, we were kind of joking that our quarterbacks were jumping on there with a week or two of practice under their belts, no less game experience. So, but those guys are competing. We would like to see one of them rise to the top and become the starter. It's a neat situation because I think both of them are capable of being a great quarterback in the Patriot League. But you like to see one of them take the reins and lead the charge. It's certainly going to help help that transition easier for those guys, whoever it winds up being on the field, with guys like Mike Fess at the receiving end. Mike's not only a talented receiver, he's got a lot of experience, actually played an awful lot even as a true freshman for us. So he's a guy, he's almost like having a 4-year starter on the field, and he's a guy that they can have a lot of confidence in. They know where he's going to be, where he's going to break routes off, things like that. He's going to do the right things, and then they're more comfortable because he's been around so long.
He's obviously a great player, he catches everything, so we're definitely looking for him to lead the way. We have a good group of receivers, a great group of receivers. Kautelu's coming back for another year, so we're looking to them to lead the way on the offense. We have quarterbacks too. Both our quarterbacks got significant playing time last year when unfortunately Watson went down, so I know that they've been here all summer, they're ready to go. Our offensive line, they've all been together in the summer up at Holy Cross, and they're ready to lead the way also.
And we have capable players at all 3 levels. I think we have a good amount of experience coming back on our defensive line. led by Gary Acca, who's elected captain. Gary's a great leader, but he's a hard worker and a very talented player, so we expect him to have a big season for us. And then there's 4 or 5 other guys that played and or started for us all of last year. So I think we're pretty deep and fairly talented up there. The linebacking core was kind of the late season injury theme. We had Roman Sandoval and Scotty O'Donoghue, who both were very good players for us. Unfortunately, we lost them in the second half of the season, and those guys are coming back from injury. So they missed spring football, but they're back for preseason camp, and they're both very capable players. They could be some of the best linebackers in the league if they're healthy. And then in the secondary, we had a lot of guys that played, probably 7, 8 guys that played in the secondary last year that are back this year, and I expect them to be a lot more efficient and a lot better in the back end.
We're basically returning all our defensive players. We're only losing Tom Mannix, who was a great leader for us last year. So we're definitely looking for the defensive line. We've been playing together now for 3 years, so we look to lead the way, and our linebacker core has been together, same thing, 2 or 3 years, and our defensive backs, same thing, they've been together. They have a lot of experience from last year, so just collectively as a group, we're looking to lead the way and just make a statement.
All our non-league games this year are all played before we even play our first league game. I think that's an advantage. It does get you ready for the season. We have a couple of games. You mentioned Towson, who's a nationally ranked team. Harvard, who's always a very good football team. So we have some tough games early in the season that we're going to have to play very well in. But it's also going to get us battle tested when we get into the Patriot League. I'll be honest with you, regardless of where we're ranked in the preseason, top, bottom, or somewhere in between, in my 10 years at Holy Cross, there's never been an easy game in the Patriot League. They're all competitive, and I think, when you get a league like ours, it's a fairly unique situation where not only you're in the same league, so you expect it to be the same level of competition, but you have like-minded institutions, academically, admissions-wise, things like that. So it makes sense that there's probably going to be a lot of parity. And I think there's always been a lot of parity in the Patriot League. Sure, there's a team or two that are going to rise to the top, and maybe some teams that tend to be down the bottom, but that's in any given year. And I think any year you could see anyone rise to the top. We certainly hope, with the experiences that we had last season and the work we've been doing in the off season here, that we're going to be back on the top of the league this year.